Hey guys, what's going on? Tyrauku here, and I hope you're all doing great. Now, I assume a lot of you have already seen the news today that's came out about the new dungeons that are coming out, the stages 21 to 25. It's said in the next update that those will be released. And if you haven't seen that news, this is what it is. Basically, new dungeons that were announced several months ago, I guess maybe a few months ago, stages 21 to 25 on the Dragon, Spider, Fire Knight, and Ice Golem. Those will all be released very soon. Now, the main thing I want to talk about in this video is, first off, you've probably seen a lot of negativity around this few lines right here. And I definitely think it's well deserved. I don't love this idea. But besides the idea of the player backlash and how the players feel, I don't understand how this could possibly be a good thing for Plarium to implement, strictly from a revenue and money making side of things, because we all know it's a company. That's what they're after. Okay. So they want money, they want more money. Perfectly understandable. But I think this is going to hurt them. And when you see the actual math behind it, unless I'm just missing something massive, you guys can let me know. There's a lot of smart people in the community. But unless I'm missing something massive, this could make a pretty big drop in revenue for Plarium, assuming players are going to be farming stages 25, which I would assume they would want players to farm stage 25. Why else release it, right? I know you have Nightmare Campaign. Not a whole lot of people farm that. But if you're going to release additional stages of dungeons, do it in the expectation that people are going to farm it, I would hope. But this few lines, they say basically, get ready as an artifact. Dungeon bosses on new stages will have additional passive skills. One will limit turnmeter decrease. We've already seen this in the Doom Tower. The other will limit the damage they take from attacks that scale based on target's max HP. No more than 10% of the HP will be lost. Now, looking at this real quick, Spider's Den says Magic 25. And when you look at this video they posted a few months ago, back in March, it's from the official raid channel. You can see down here in the corner. But it has Spider Stage 25 Magic Affinity as well, and it costs 20 energy. So this video I'm going to be talking about, it's going to assume that the Stage 25 is going to cost 20 energy, that they could change that on release, but I'm going to assume it's going to cost 20 energy. I'm also going to be basing the energy prices off of this chained offer, just because it was something simple to go off of, keep it consistent throughout this entire thing. Now I'm going to jump into some math and kind of give a solid reasoning behind why this seems like a bad idea for Plarium, and hopefully they change it. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Leave a like. Don't forget to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I missed something. What are your feelings and feedback on this? And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now, before we get into the actual dungeon breakdown and all these different things and the math behind it, I want to go over the Doom Tower. So this has been implemented in the Doom Tower for a little while now. The bosses went from being very easy to farm, very, very quick, shoot them with a cold heart, and they're dead, basically. Very, very easy to clear them at that point. And they changed that. So now the Doom Tower bosses are the same thing as the implementations they're going to be making for the new bosses on the actual dungeons. But while this is not a big deal for the Doom Tower, and let me explain why. So the Doom Tower, you have 10 gold keys a day, and you have 10 silver keys. The silver keys you can get extra from the secret rooms, you can get extra from your advanced quests now, but you're still limited to silver keys. You can't buy any extra silver keys. Energy you can. So what this is saying with the silver keys is, hey, the Doom Tower bosses went from taking 2 minutes to now they take 5 minutes, all right? Well, if you're actually farming the Doom Tower, each run you're doing is a extra 3 minutes that Plarium can say, hey, our players are spending this much more time in our game. They're liking our game this much more. They're not necessarily getting money from this. There's no money metric behind this whatsoever, because like I said, you can't get more Doom Tower keys. It's strictly a time spent in the game. And obviously it's a great metric to have that, because they can take it to their investors and say, hey, players spend an average of 4 or 5 hours a day in our game, and this looks great. Obviously that's not the right number necessarily, but you get the idea. Now the Doom Tower, there's no money behind it, like I said, so that works perfectly fine. But now when you come over to the dungeons, all of us know that it costs energy to run these dungeon runs, right? So each dungeon run you do is 40 gems to refill your energy. Once you fill that up, once you finish all that energy out, this is where the energy cost is going to come into play. So like, I think I mentioned this, the energy that I've calculated based on the chained offer in the store is about 0.0063 energy, 0.0063 cents per energy. Sorry about that. So that's what numbers are going to be used in these calculations. And let me pull up this professional looking breakdown of everything I've done. Now, the stages, stage 20 right now in the dungeon is 16 energy of run. Well, stage 25 is going to be 20 energy per run. That's going to be a 25% increase in energy. Doesn't seem like a massive, massive difference, but with everything else coming into play, this is going to make a pretty massive difference. So I went off some average numbers. Now, a big thing is players farm these dungeons overnight. That's probably where a lot of their total time played is people leaving auto clickers on overnight, running the dungeon overnight. So I'm just going to pretend that somebody goes to sleep for 8 hours a day, or 8 hours at night, preferably. They go to sleep for 8 hours. They leave their auto clicker on for 8 hours. Well, in that 8 hours, there's 28,800 seconds. And if you do 60-second dragon runs or 60-second runs in dungeons, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, some people could do more, some people could do less. But for the sake of this, 60-second runs are what we're going to be using. So currently, 16 energy per 60-second runs. So we have 480 runs. Just to check this one time, 480 times 16 is 7,680 energy, which is right here. Now, this is just the current meta, current everything. This is what's happening currently in the game. So 60-second runs. Well, let's say those runs now become 80 seconds. Okay, so that's a 33% increase. I think it's pretty fair to say that if a dragon run, a fire knight run, ice golem run was taken 60 seconds before, and you're using max HP champions, you were using turnmeter decrease, that it's going to be pretty safe to say that a 60-second run then could easily become an 80-second run, which is only what, a minute and 20 run? That's not very long for a lot of these dungeons at all. So when you look at this, just compared to the first option, this is just a 33% time increase, 20-second difference, not very much at all. You take your players from spending 7,680 energy from an overnight farming session to now they're spending 7,200 energy. So you can obviously see with such a small jump how much less energy somebody is spending. That's not a very big jump at all though. So let's move on down here to take a 60-second run, make that 60-second run from the current stage of the game to now that 60-second run becomes a 120-second run in the new stage 25 of dungeons where no turn meter decrease and no real enemy max HP stuff happens. So 120-second runs, you can do 240 runs in that 8-hour time frame. So you can only spend 4,800 energy, all right? So 4,800 energy, a significant difference down from what we're currently doing at 7,680 energy. Move down here. This is the breakdown on the money side of things. This is what Plarium likes to see. This is what they're going to be looking at. This is probably what they want to see. I mean, players' time spent in the game is an awesome metric, I'm sure. Obviously, I don't know how much weight it carries for them, but I find it hard to believe that it carries more weight than cash, cold hard cash, players spending energy. So currently, option 1, players would spend $48.38. Now, some of these numbers are rounded up, but about $48.38. Well, for option number 2, which is only a 20-second increase, remember that, players now only spend $45.36, which is a drop in 6% overall revenue, about 6%. Now, one player, that's not a huge deal, okay? But still, it's the exact same time frame, 8 hours. They're losing almost $3 per run or per 8-hour time frame. Take that, and the probably even more realistic option, which is a 60-second run in the current state of the game, to now a 2-minute or 120-second run in the stage 25 of dungeons, which are going to have these new passive abilities, that becomes a 37% loss in revenue. So that $48 they were making per overnight farming session now becomes $30 they're making per overnight farming session. Now, this is being pretty generous with the numbers. This is taking somebody who does a 60-second run and saying it's going to become a 120-second run. There's players who do 30-second dragon runs, and they're going to be slowed down significantly because those fast dragon runs, they use champions who do enemy max HP. So you take somebody who does a 30-second run and stretch it out that much more, that's even a bigger loss in revenue when you're taking those big players. A lot of those big players who have super fast runs are probably spending money to do farming overnight, right? Like, it's perfectly reasonable to assume a lot of their farming is probably coming from those players who have those fast runs. Now, this is where it's going to get very, very interesting. And this alone is going to be something that I definitely think they should reconsider what they're adding to the game and why I don't think it makes sense in any form, any shape or form at all. So Spider's Den. Spider's Den is an area where you're going to be farming it basically forever. If you need silver, you're farming spiders. The likelihood of you getting all the upgrades you'll ever need from spiders is going to be take a very, very long time essentially. But spiders is the place to go to farm silver, especially once you're later on in the game. Now, they're removing the enemy max HP, which isn't huge. I mean, it's going to have a big impact on those speed runs, but you can still do spiders with a HP burn strategy. So HP burn strategies take about a minute. Well, currently we have people doing spiders in, let's say, 15 seconds. There's people with 11-second spider teams. There's people with 30-second spider teams. But spiders is the dungeon that's the quickest to farm. Well, in those 15-second runs, if you were to farm it for 8 hours straight, you could do 1,920 runs, which would be 30,000 energy. Now, are people doing this every day? No, probably not, right? But just theoretically, you could do 30,000 energy worth of runs, which is a ton of runs. Now, take that same thing and just increase that to 60 seconds. So now you have this one, which is the new stage 25 dungeon, which is perfectly reasonable to assume that it could take 60 seconds. 60 seconds with a burn strategy team still takes a very long time to actually kill the spider with those burns, assuming that is not nerfed either. So 60-second runs, you'll do 480 runs, down from the 1,920 runs before. 480 runs, you can only spend 9,600 energy. Once we go down here, same thing, 0.0063 cents per energy spent. Option 1, the player's spending about $193 for those 8 hours of consecutive runs, whereas in option 2, players are only spending $60.48. Now, in what world does that make sense to take players who are spending almost $200 a day, if that was actually happening, to now they're spending $60.48, okay? We'll just call it that, make it sound even worse. And 69%. Now this was like 68, I think 68 point something, I'm not sure exactly, but I had to round up to 69. 69 was just a perfect percentage to have, so that's where it's at. But either way, that is a massive, massive drop in revenue, and it doesn't seem to make any sense to me why you would make a part of the game that is a big money maker, I'm sure. Other than people buying shards, people farming is the biggest moneymaker. And for free-to-play players, this would make sense for Plarium to do. I mean, if you're a free-to-play player, you're just using your free daily energy. So you're going to be spending more time farming in the game. But for all those players who leave one on auto clicker, leave it on for 8 hours, leave it on for an extended period of time, those players, they're going to be losing money from those players. They're not going to have to purchase as much energy. So instead of purchasing tens of thousands of energy to do some spiders overnight, now you're only going to have to purchase a fraction of that. Because if you want to do 8 hours of spiders, doing it at 60 seconds per run, 9,600 energy will do you for that entire 8 hours. Whereas before, you would have had to purchase 30,000 energy to wake up and your spider's run still be going. So the difference there is insane. The difference there is massive. So other than the players not liking this idea, I mean, people who've invested in Cold Heart, people who've invested in Septimus, Royal Guards are going to be significantly decreased. That's not even including the fact that a lot of these runs are probably going to take a lot longer because there's no real reason to bring a Royal Guard for wave clear if he doesn't have the same benefit on the Dragon. Yeah, his wave clear, his AoE max HP damage dealing to the waves is still going to do really good, but when you get to the Dragon, when you get to the Ice Golem, when you get to the Spider, the Fire Knight, whatever it is, he's not going to do as much damage to those bosses. So bringing him could possibly hinder you more than it would help you. Now, I'm going to be interested to see how they actually release this, but the way it looks here, it doesn't make any sense. Like I was saying before though, the Doom Tower, that makes sense. From a business point of view, from Plarium's point of view, that makes perfect sense. Players are spending more time in the game. It's not an area of the game where they're making money from anyway, so yeah, make it take longer. Perfectly makes sense. I don't love that. I wish they had an autocomplete function, but we're not even going to get into that. But for a part of the game where they're probably making a good chunk of money, why would you make it take so much longer for players, specifically for the players who want to do speed farming so they can farm it overnight, so they can get good gear, improve their champions quicker and better? Spider's Den is where the biggest impact's going to happen. As you can see from the math, 15-second runs up to a minute. That's being generous. I honestly don't even think a minute runs will be the average. I mean, the nerf that's happening is so big, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a minute and a half, and that makes this loss even bigger. So guys, let me know what you think about this video. Hopefully this, I guess I'd say hopefully it helps you out, but I don't think this would help you guys out. But this is just sharing a little bit of math breakdown. I know a lot of people are agitated, upset about this happening anyways, and I am definitely as well, but there may be a light at the end of the tunnel. After a few weeks, Plarium may realize, hey, this is not the best idea to do. This is hurting our bottom line a little bit more than we originally expected. Players are spending more time in the game, possibly, but we're not getting any more money from it. So we're about to find out which one Plarium wants. Do they want more money, or do they want more time spent in the game? Possibly. So we'll find out soon enough, guys. But thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.